Oh, good to see you again, Miss TerWee. Jana. I've said it wrong for probably 5 or 6 years now, and you've finally told me I'm completely wrong. So how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. We're done with freshman year of college, little summer internship, all that, and I'm heading back to school soon. So I'm excited to see my friends, but I've enjoyed a lot of time with friends from home and family.
So what's your summer internship?
My summer internship, I am a marketing and development intern for MB in Sioux Falls. It's a women's and family nonprofit for women's empowerment and family success.
Oh, very exciting. So what else has been going on in the summer break? Any fun things?
Uh, I mean, that's been the big one. Obviously training, because I'm a track and field athlete. So, training and lifting has been a fun one. It's always fun to come home to your gyms and you're doing college workouts. So you have people staring at you like, what are you doing? I'm like, it's not me, it's my coach, I swear. But it's been exciting because I've been training hammer. So that's been a new one that I'm learning. So I've spent a lot of the summer falling on my butt trying to learn it. But otherwise, it's been a very chill summer. It's been nice to kind of just be home and enjoy being home. I think coming back from college gives you a little perspective.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm gonna let everybody know who we're talking to. So we're talking to Jana TerWee, three-time state finalist, one-time state champion from West Lyon. Um, we've known each other quite a while, met at BV
Yeah.
practices, and just kind of ran into each other quite a bit at wrestling tournaments. You went off, you didn't do wrestling, you went for track, but you went to Princeton. How was your freshman year at Princeton?
It was great. It was, I think it was so interesting because I knew I always wanted to do athletics in college. Um, but let alone in the Ivy League is definitely not something I really had on my radar until it was happening. But also I was very adjusted to like D1 public schools, stuff like that, like my siblings went to. And so I got thrown for a loop. Like I all of a sudden was going to Princeton in a private Ivy League. And so I thought I knew what I was walking into and I didn't, but I'm so glad I didn't. It's been amazing. And I'm 3 more years, met great people, learned a lot as an athlete and a student for sure. And you know what they say, college is just to learn how to learn at a higher level in general. So I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I know. Like, well, Princeton, obviously, it's a couple hour drive out to Princeton.
A few.
A lot of people when they first get to college, they have that coming home. I remember I came home probably 3 or 4 or 5 weekends in a row until I finally got adjusted to college, and then I never came home again. What was that?
Right.
What was that first couple of weeks like being that far away from home?
I think it was really interesting. I've gone on like independent trips before in ways, and my parents raised me to be pretty independent. So it wasn't too foreign at first. I think when they dropped me off and left, I was like, okay, like, am I sure I'm even on the East Coast, like New Jersey? Like, it doesn't seem that much different. And Princeton's a smaller campus too, so it's very homey and like people know each other. I think it randomly hit me like a month in that I was like, oh, I'm making decisions for myself completely. I'm buying my own detergent. Uh, it was those little tasks. It's like, I'm buying my own detergent. Like I have to buy my own shampoo. Somebody doesn't just restock that, like when I say we're out, and stuff like that. So that was a big one. And taking like trains. I think that was a really big one, figuring out public transportation when you're coming from a farm. But it I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed having that independence a lot, which I think makes it even sweeter coming home. Distance makes the heart grow fonder. So
Yeah. How was adjusting to city life compared to, man, Northwest Iowa, where even our bigger towns are pretty small towns?
yeah, yeah, because well, I'm from West Lyon. We're right by Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So when I try and tell, my friends from Princeton, I'm like, well, the city next to us, and I have to go, wait. It's not what you think. It's not a city in your terms. It's basically a tiny little town compared to your city, your version of a city. So that's always funny, and everyone loves hearing about the farm kid who grows corn. But adjusting to it wasn't too bad. I feel like there's a little bit of a misconception for Princeton of like we're really in the an industrial big city. And I wouldn't say Princeton is. We talk about the orange bubble a lot on campus. We're very much
Uh,
encapsulated. Nobody really has cars. They don't really allow cars on campus in general, so nobody has them. So you take public transportation like buses if you want to. But Princeton supplies everything for us, and it's great. So you don't have to leave campus if you don't want to.
oh, that's
Um,
awesome.
right? Right? And it's almost a little bit, I miss my car. I miss driving, being able to get in a car and go. But I've saved a lot of money on gas. But I love where I'm at because Princeton can be very homey and it feels very connected and community built. And then if you want to, you can go to New York or Philadelphia on an hour train ride, which that was a big one. Got to New York and went, okay. I was like, I don't know what feeling I was waiting for. I mean, this is amazing. And it's definitely something to behold at night. Times Square at night, it feels weird. It feels like you're still in the daytime because there's so many lights, but it's amazing the opportunities it has on the coast and where you can go.
Oh yeah. Recruiting process, obviously, I talked to a lot of girls going, mostly Iowa schools, maybe Nebraska, Illinois, but recruiting process for going as far as New Jersey probably was a little bit different. What was it like to, what'd you do for recruiting?
Yeah. So well, okay. I mean, it has to be given credit. I had older siblings who all went to college for sports as well. My oldest brother went to Stanford. So luckily, being the whole idea of being far away wasn't too foreign, but my brother's like 14 years older than me. So I kind of dissociated that from myself. I'm like, he's just a one hit wonder. Like he's out there, like couldn't be me, And then I had my sister who went to SDSU for track and field as well. And then my other brother went to Wayne State and he does rugby there. So big sports family. But they all kind of had their own experience to share with me of recruiting. So I had a lot of advice, which is something I've always been really grateful for. Because they knew to tell me, like, you need to get on it, you need to get on this, and you need to be looking at things. And, there's a sort of fortune that comes from being a successful athlete right away in high school. Because the thing is I was being recruited for track and wrestling, but track and field was the big one. Because I had had a really big sophomore season of throwing. So that's when colleges could reach out. And so I had a lot reaching out, especially in our region. But I think what also really helped put me on the map was my success in wrestling as well. Um, all the coaches knew. They're like, we see you're nationally ranked on that as well. And that was a big one. And that's a huge emphasis. Like, wrestling's always going to give you benefits, whether you go to college or not for that. As soon as that gets brought up, even in job interviews, as soon
Yeah.
as that gets brought up, it's like, we trust that you know how to get some work done. And they're like, I do. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I've gotten
so
jobs just because I was a wrestler. And
exactly.
yeah, it's
It
amazing that those little thing like just being a wrestler, they don't even know how good you were.
right. Exactly. They're like, so you did a whole year? Great. Um, that's all we need to know. But like, so that played a huge factor in the recruiting process, I would say for me, even though a lot of it was track and field. I knew just because I got to kind of know my siblings' experiences and where that could bring me, and I had that exposure. So I knew that D1 was something I really wanted to be Division One, which was kind of the struggle with wrestling. I did have a lot of wrestling colleges in our area reach out, and I talked to them, but in the end, when I was being recruited, there wasn't a lot of those D1 opportunities for wrestling. There wasn't, and it's really difficult to go back on something that I'd always dreamed of. And I love track and field as well. So I was given a lot more opportunities in track and field, which the times are changing, which is great.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear from past teammates and friends that like wrestling, they're getting so many more wrestling opportunities, which is what I've always dreamed of. But for me, that wasn't an option for what I wanted. Um, and so had conversations with wrestling coaches, but there was track and field. Like I said, I got reached out to a lot by like Iowa colleges, some Minnesota ones. And all of a sudden, I had an email from a Princeton coach, and I thought it was spam. I thought it was a joke. And I was like, that doesn't even make sense to me. And she reached out to me. She was like, I want to see your transcript because that's a big thing. Obviously going into the
Oh
Ivy,
yeah.
they need to know where your grades are at. And I'm so glad that she reached out right away my sophomore summer because I was ready to quit Spanish and could not quit Spanish if I wanted to go to Ivy League, in that case. And I was adjusted to the idea that if there were colleges I really wanted to go out to, I needed to reach out to them because in the end, coaches miss athletes or they just don't know. But when you show that you're interested in that college and that you're devoted enough to sit there and communicate with the coach and be on it, that already is a huge green flag for them. That is like, I see the passion in this kid. And that's just one more tally as to why they would want you. And so, like, that's a big thing that I tell girls all the time, especially for wrestling. It's like, it's not that they don't want you, they just can't look at every single person under the sun that wrestles. So reaching out was a big thing for me. I was lucky enough that Princeton reached out to me. Otherwise, it would not have been on my radar. I don't know. I never placed myself going to one, and so that was a big one for me. And the big thing was official visits. So I went on a lot of official visits. I heard you say in a previous podcast, and some people like enjoy it because it's the
Yeah.
only time people are paying for you to go to their campus. They're feeding you, they're introducing you to people, making connections. And if for nothing else, you're getting to know the community of the sport you're going into. And that was so fun. You're completely correct. It's really difficult to come down to the decision in the end.
Oh, I'm
After
sure.
all those visits. That's a really difficult one. But for me, the official visit to Princeton was just it was perfect. I felt so at home. I loved the people I had met. I always knew that a big thing for me was being a student athlete and no give on either type of thing. Like it is both. And while I was like, athlete is what really helped reach out to these opportunities, in the end, it's also because I'm a student. Um, and so it encaptured it all perfectly of what I wanted. And then I ended up committing there. And I think other people are really scared to go the distance. But I would say if you're willing, reach out to them, see if it even happens, right? Like fate, will you get that official visit? And then also go there. They're paying you to go over there. Like they're paying for your trip to go over there if it's an official visit. Why would you ever say no? Take the visit. Because I know so many people who are like, I never saw myself going this far from home. And now I couldn't imagine it a different way. So, yeah.
Yeah. You said a lot of really good things in there. Number one, every college you talk to, did they talk about grades first?
Not everyone, no. No, not at all. At one
I
point, but
Yeah,
no.
I try to let everybody know that probably one of your number one things is that they don't want that average student because even if you're a great athlete, because you have to be there for 4 years. And if
Yeah,
you're not making it in high school, it's pretty tough to make it in college, right? So grades are
exactly.
super important. The
When
idea
they
that
look at
you
it.
Yeah, the idea that you should reach out is great because I can give you this. Um, Met Eliana, your teammate this
Yeah.
summer. We wrestled in the same area, probably at two tournaments this year she was at. I didn't have anybody at her weight this year. I didn't have, maybe I did had somebody at the weight, but we didn't wrestle. So I didn't even know who she was until I on this trip. And this is the same area. So how could a college coach from 2, 3 states away even have an idea of these little diamonds in a rough? If you
Right.
really want to do it, you need to go, right? And God, there was another point in there, and it'll come back to me later, but we'll pick it up. So no, awesome stuff. That's great. I know that Princeton has a women's wrestling club. Have you stepped on the mat at all at Princeton?
So I I have not stepped on the mat. I have gone to several wrestling matches, and funny enough, so Princeton does have a girl. She just graduated, who wrestled on the boys team, and that was a big thing. They I've experienced it in high school. She had to experience it, like kind of fighting for a team to be allowed to like wrestle on the boys team in a way. But she wrestled
Uh-huh.
in girls tournaments. But it was like given the spot of the benefits of being on the boys team and stuff. Because being a varsity sport is different from being a club sport, obviously, and it
Yep.
comes with different benefits. And funny enough, obviously, there was not a whole locker room for one girl. And so she was in the track and field locker room. And so I talked a lot with the one girl wrestling on the men's team, which I was sitting there like, I get it. And her dad, I want to say, I think had coached at Princeton at some other point before she was there. So, or he wrestled there. So it was cool to talk like that. I've met some people in the club. I have a friend, I have some teammates on the track and field team who have actually done like jujitsu and taekwondo. And there's clubs like that. And they're like, I'm considering joining it now that I'm like I feel set in place here. I understand. And that was my biggest thing is like I needed to settle in Princeton and understand. And I think transitioning from a high school athlete to a D1 athlete is already huge, right? Like
Yep.
that's already takes a lot. So you have to get used to that. And that was my big thing. Um, I have looked into figuring out if there's a way that I can kind of just roll around on the mat a little bit. I don't think it's going to be a very viable option for me to like actively compete, but
Yep.
I love the wrestling mat. And so I'm finding a way to pack my wrestling shoes in to my list luggage for the way home. And I'm hoping to just kind of come in on some practices because in the end, wrestling just makes me a better athlete in general. Just those movements is so great for you. So
Yeah.
gotta get it
Movement,
approved with
body
my coach, of
awareness.
course. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't need to know everything. Actually, I had this farther. I have an outline, right? I don't really have all this written out because we never know which direction we're going to go. But you said, what it takes to be a D1 athlete, that behind the scenes, and just what is the day in a life of a D1 track and field athlete?
Yeah. So obviously track and field's big, right? So we have everyone doing different events. I am lucky enough. I mean, I find it to be fortunate. I am not cross country or distance runner. Um, they
Yeah.
have early mornings. Their schedule has them being early mornings. A lot of D1 schools and athletes tend to have like morning practices as well as afternoons. Princeton has a time period, and I want to say it's like 4 to 6 that it's cut out. Like there can be no classes during that time to help accommodate the athletes. Track and field's different, like I said, because while it's a team sport, it can be individual because you have your own individual event. So everyone has their own schedules. I love mine. I go to classes in the morning and I try to be you tend to have to be a little bit mindful of the classes you're taking and the times that they're at so you can make sure that they still work with your schedule. But I go through classes in the morning, and sometimes that means early morning practices because I have afternoon, or sorry, early morning classes because I have afternoon practices.
Uh-huh.
And usually around 1:30 to 2 o'clock, I head down to our gym, Jadwin, and I go throw for about hour and a half. And then I head to Jadwin where I have like sprints or conditioning or all that. And then I have weightlifting. The throwers weightlift 4 days a week. Others don't do it as much, but usually you have your workout for your event and then something to add to that, whether it's mobility, stuff like that. Some days you're in and out within 2.5, 3 hours. For me, when I've done like some rehab stuff as well afterwards, I've been down there for 5 hours, just straight out of time. And so it can get to you. And then right after that, usually we're all rushing to one of the dining halls because we're hungry. So everyone that makes for a lot of team dinners because everyone's getting off at the same time. You eat and then some nights it's only 6:37, sometimes it's like 8, 8:30, and that's kind of the homework hour. What's nice about college that I've loved compared to high school is you obviously don't have all of the classes every day, all days of the
Yeah.
week. You have usually gaps in your morning. So for me, I have a lot of gaps where I'll do work in between as well as work before I go to bed and then gotta get sleep if you want to be an athlete. So there's all that, and it's usually for us about 5 days of practice. We do Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and then a Saturday or a Sunday, but 2 rest days.
2 rest days. I've been talking to some different people recently. Nutrition. Do you guys on a specific nutrition plan with being a D1 athlete?
Um, they trust us. I would say especially with people I've talked to, as well as like some of the official visits I went on and stuff like that, some colleges are more hands-on with their athlete, and it depends on the sport as well, obviously.
Yeah.
Being like, you need to do this, this, and this, and all that. I would say Princeton's a little bit more hands-off. We have all the resources available. It's great. We have snack station, nutrition station. So they always have the nutrition things and tell us like what it should be. And they offer us, we got smoothies this year. It was great on the second semester. So they're very big on educating us, but in the end, if we talk with our coaches or our athletic trainers, and they'll be like, hey, I think you should see the nutritionist, or you can go on your own account. We've had meetings with our nutritionist as well as a team, so they'll talk with us about it. I've gone kind of for fun just to kind of see where they're at, but obviously, being an athlete and a student, but being an athlete is all about advocating for yourself. It is. That's one of the biggest roles you play in your own career is being your own advocate, because who else is going to do it? So I think Princeton's very big on that is, you are your own advocate. And so that's the same. We have sports psychologists as well, that it is here for you. We are going to supply you all the resources. We're going to inform you about it, but in the end, it is your decision. So, which I appreciate.
Yeah. That was something else we've been talking. So my last few podcasts, I had Econ Nutrition, who does, nutrition for a lot of the different, well, you and I, Wartburg,
Oh, yeah.
um, Grandview. So some of the top, colleges for wrestling. Of course, a little different thing, wrestling. And as far as
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about making a weight anymore. So that's a nice thing. And then I had a person on that did more on the mental health aspect of it.
Yeah.
Still, throwing's a individual sport. Is there
Yeah.
something that, there's the nerves, there's all kinds of things, there's self-doubt, all that stuff. Is there something that Princeton's helped you out with that, or just your coaches have done?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big pull from all your experiences type of person. And I think, for me, I'm also like looking at studying psychology as well. So that's always something that's been on my mind. And I've always been big on my own mental health and the people around me. I have always said I have never gotten the nerves that I ever got with wrestling. Wrestling always gave me the most nerves. And so everything was easy after that. They say everything's easy after wrestling. And so nerves was
Correct.
easier after wrestling because I don't have to evaluate someone else's moves in track and field. Like it's all my own, which can be said for wrestling. And technically, wrestling is all your own moves. That's how you should, control your match. But obviously, I only had to worry about myself
Yep.
when I was throwing. Um, there's nerves. I think a big stark change for people, especially in track and field. And I think this is the same for almost all sports. In high school, you're getting recruited because you're one of the top in your area, sometimes in the nation, right? And that's what you're getting recruited for. But when you get to college, all of a sudden you're going against people. You're going against, I mean, even international students, people within the US, like they're pulling all of the best into smaller areas. Um, and so that first freshman year can be a lot on people because you're adjusting to a whole different way of working out, a whole new coach, a whole new team, right? And they have to learn you. You don't realize how well your coaches from home know you until you're placed with a new one. Um, and it can be hard to suddenly realize it's not that you're a bad athlete or you're bad, but you're being put with the best of the best. And you might not look very good next to them the first year. And I think that was a big one for me was like I knew that was gonna happen. And I love my teammates so much, right? But I went from a place where I was one of the top on my team to being on the lower spectrum for my team. And it's like everyone's appreciating each other, but it's like, and everyone's like, you're doing great. And we celebrate each other's accomplishments. And it's so huge. And they're like, oh my gosh, Jana. And they're like, and I think my teammates have always been so supporting. They're like, Jana, if you would have told your sophomore, junior self in high school that you're now throwing this far and that you're learning this and that you're at Princeton and you got into this program and all these things, like you would be so mind boggled. But right now you're so upset because, you just had one bad practice because I have amazing teammates who are amazing throwers who outthrow me. And I'm like, I just want to be on your level. Like, I want to be up there with you. And they're like, I'm 3 years older than you, Jana. And I'm like, good point.
Good point.
So that was a really big one is like, no matter how much I knew it, I had to constantly be reminded that they had more experience. And that's not my own fault. I can't control that, but I can remember that and keep motivating myself. And um, I think too, with it, of course, I've gone to the sports psychologist because it's rather than being reactive, it's being proactive. And so if you're offered that resource, use it. Even when you don't think you have to. Maybe you don't use it as often as someone else, but use it. So I'm very proactive about that stuff rather than having to be reactive.
That's awesome. In Iowa, what do we throw? We throw those big heavy balls and those frisbees, right?
Oh yeah,
I'm
big
not really
boulders.
big. I'm not a really big, track person, but yeah, I know it's a shot put and a discus. Um, Other things in college, though, I think you were mentioning that you're learning the hammer throw,
I am.
and have you tossed that big old javelin yet?
I haven't because so I'm a circle thrower. And so they're
Okay,
like, all right, you have discus, shot put, and hammer. You don't see too often on the college level, on the high success level, circle thrower and a javelin thrower. And
gotcha.
you know what? I'm all right not being a javelin thrower because I see my teammates stretching out, the mobility in their shoulders and they're able to bend it all the way back there. And I'm like, nope.
Nope.
I think my arm would disconnect from my body like a Barbie doll. I'm good.
What's hammer throw like? Learning something new.
It's a lot. I was just thinking about this the other day. It was so funny to me because hammer is known to be up and down. Like you can find comparisons between shot put and discus, and people will try to find comparisons for hammer. And I'm like, nope. And they're like, I mean, you're rotating like you're spinning. I'm like, nope, not the same thing at all, at all. And I always knew that, but now I really know it. And it's known for being its own beast. I mean, you talk to any hammer thrower, and they're like, it is so different. And that's been something for my mental. That's been a difficult one because you just want to be good at it, right? And I'm
Yeah.
sitting here, I'm like, I got recruited for throwing like I look like a newborn baby, not even understanding a thing in this world, trying to throw hammer. And it was so interesting because I was like, I learned how to wrestle. I started that like it was nothing, and I'd always been around hammer because my sister threw hammer, and I'd always been around wrestling because my brothers wrestled, and I was like, I learned how to wrestle and I did that for years and I got successful fast. Like, why do I treat this like hammers any different? Because I think there's days I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever get to that level of being um good at it. Like, what's the word? Not excellent, like acceptable, like an acceptable,
Yeah.
like he's doing
Proficient.
the thing, proficient. Like, will I ever get to a proficient level? And then I'm like, I did that in wrestling. Like, why do I think I can't do that here? So you always got to ground yourself and remember what you've done before. So wrestling's always a reference in my athletics.
Well, let's go back then. Let's go back. I don't know how many years ago did you start wrestling?
I started wrestling in eighth grade, and
Okay.
like the story many people tell, it got cut short from COVID. Unfortunately, for eighth grade year. So that was a quick in and out, but got a taste of it and I was excited. I was ready. So I had about 5 years then of wrestling in total.
And if I remember right, you did not go to the IWCOA tournament your freshman year.
I did
Was there
not.
was there just not anybody? Did you? I mean, I understand how things work right then because
Yeah,
I told Aaron like when I first got on the union's little committee. I'm like, well, I coached that first couple of years for like five different teams. She's like, you can't do that. And I said, well, I did do that.
yeah,
And
I did.
it's crazy. I had like one girl from this town and I just sit in their corner.
Yeah.
So
No, that I went to AAU my eighth grade year because it was like COVID shut everything down right after it happened. So I was
yeah.
lucky enough to do that. But then my freshman year, I was ready. We unfortunately had a death in the family, which meant
Oh,
my parents, who were originally going to bring me, right?
yeah.
Very, very much still AAU style. They were going to bring me to it. They could no longer go, which was totally understandable to me. But I had to like make the decision to stay home, all that. But I was like, I want to go. And unfortunately, I couldn't find a coach. I obviously the men's coaches, they were my coaches.
Yeah.
But they had a really important Ida Grove tournament. That Ida
Yep.
Grove tournament's really big. And they weren't planning on me. And it was my freshman year. It was my freshman year. I was a freshman, and as much as they supported me, like that's what it was. And it was so last minute that everything happened. I couldn't find a coach. There was nobody who could bring me. My sister tried to bring me, but she didn't have her coaching certification yet. Like we tried everything. And that's what you're kind of talking about.
Yeah.
We didn't have the resources to be our own independent um entity. We weren't our own entity at that point. So it was unfortunate. I did not.
As it progressed, though, how has the team at West Lyon grown?
It's interesting. It's up and down. Obviously after that sophomore year, I'm sure you recall when I was still on my own, had a lot of successes that season, and it boomed my junior year. We had a lot of interest. I would say there was a lot of interest in like young ages, like elementary and junior high. I think that's where I'm seeing the most growth, which is so important because we
Yeah.
want the people who are coming from a young age. It can be hard to persuade people when all they've known is all the other sports and all they've known is wrestling to be a men's sport. And I think that was something we struggled with. But my junior year, we had four great girls out. We had more of that to start,
Yep.
obviously. And some come, some go. And then we got more my senior year. That was great. I want to say we were towards 7 or 8. Like I said, you get injuries, you get in and out people. But
That
I'm
was
pretty sure
the
we had like,
cow
what?
print days. Was that the cow print days?
That was the cow print days. Yup. That was the cow print days with our cow pants, which that was my idea. Best idea I've ever had. The parents loved it. They were like, we can spot you anywhere in the crowd. So those were the cow print days though. And that's when there was like 8 of us. So we were scattered, trickled out in our cow pants. But and I know this year they had good numbers coming from junior high. So I think they're kind of just playing the game, right? When you're starting something, you kind of have to go up and down until you can really start establishing a great base. And two, it comes down to our boys wrestling as well, because our boys wrestling has also teetered here and there, and that's getting really built up as well. So I think it's important for the overall culture of wrestling at the school to grow together. And I think it has been growing together, and that's huge because where the boys start growing a big wrestling attitude, the girls do too.
Yeah, I think I'm having some of the same things. This might be one of my smaller teams this year.
Interesting.
And the other thing is I've also gotten a little more strict, not so much oriented on participation, but actually showing up. So,
Exactly.
sometimes you lose some people there. But I do see in the co-op that I have, I believe there's 6 or 7 seventh graders this year, so there'll be eighth graders next year. So in
Hmm.
freshman year, there's a possibility if our co-op stays together, which it's probably when, co-ops break up is when you have these big, huge groups come in and somebody's not getting to participate, right?
Yeah.
I could have a possibility of like 27 freshmen, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, that's a crazy number to even think about. And I work with most of them now,
14.
so yeah, it's fun to work with them, but that's you're right, up and down. And but I think wrestling and I think well, girls wrestling's growing so much, but I think boys wrestling's coming back around. I think
Yeah.
numbers are up all around. Northwest Iowa's growing. I think we're doing better.
Right.
We don't have resources as I know a lot of people east and central. We don't have
Yeah.
those clubs, year-round clubs that
No.
are building.
No.
I don't want to cut deep into any old trauma wounds here or anything, but I think you're removed enough here. So you were a state champion in
Mhm.
2022.
Yeah.
Um, I believe like a 3 to 4 match, maybe in overtime. Was it overtime that year?
It was an overtime. Yeah.
Okay, and then in 2023 we went back and we wrestled Mac again in the
Mhm.
finals. Got
Yeah.
second. I believe it was a 1-0 match.
It was a quadruple overtime, 1-0.
Yes.
Actually, I think it was technically I so that was the thing. I didn't understand how that worked. I did not know quadruple overtime was a thing until it was
When
happening. I was like,
yeah.
what's going on? It might have technically been 0-0, but they just had to say 1-0.
Yep,
Like they
because
had to
of
put
the
it
top
on after
bottom.
the, yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, I didn't know if they call it like just a overtime win. I didn't know what they called it.
And then I can't remember the Libby Dix, fantastic wrestler. What I can't remember the score
Yeah.
on that one, honestly.
That one. well, right at the end, you got to try whatever you can. So I
Oh,
went,
yeah.
woo, and then
Yeah.
I got pinned on that one. So,
All right. So now what my question from this is a zero to one, actually 0-0 match, basically on criteria.
yeah.
Yourself now being a college athlete
Hmm.
and looking back, um, would you, and I don't want to like regrets or anything, not a regrets thing, but
No.
would you, I mean, a lot of times we worry about trying something and
Yes.
giving that, especially in a state final, we don't want to,
Yeah.
we don't want to fail. But is there some, maybe a little piece of advice you could throw out there for this situation, that it's
Yeah.
okay to fail? Because I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, go
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah. No, I've thought about this because it's something too, like, you met Ellie. Ellie and I will talk about it. I think she mentioned that we have our phone calls of mentorship. I like to call them phone calls of mentorship. But yeah, so especially like what I talked about being a freshman in college now, right? Where I went from this being some of the best in the area to not bad, just you're not on top anymore. That's just not what it is. And you think about the past. So yeah, like that match was a big one for me because, when you get out of a match, you think about that and you're like, oh, what could I have done differently? And looking back at it, be okay with losing if it means you're growing. And everyone says that like the losses are some of the best matches, right? And so for me, it was like you have to be willing to lose, or that idea of what you're gonna do and what you're gonna try might mean you lose. And I think for me, I was always so big on promoting the sport, and I was lucky enough to end up in a state of achievement and of winning that made my voice a little bit louder sometimes for people, which was so amazing. And I got so scared to try things. Always tried them in practice, but never put it to the mat like I should have. And I loved snap downs. I loved my snap downs and stuff, but I wouldn't try those things. And it showed in both those years. And I was so scared of this idea of ever losing or just ever trying. I had so much more in my arsenal that I never used. And so I would tell girls to, you're not here to be perfect. You're not here to pretend that you're perfect either. You are here to push yourself and to grow. And I think that was something I talked a lot about in like interviews my senior year going into the tournament is like, oh, like you're going back to the finals, all of that. And they're like, how do you feel? I'm like, I would rather be last in this tournament and felt like I grew as a wrestler than to get first. Because if I walked out of here feeling like I didn't do anything to push myself, then what's the point? You know what I mean? I didn't do anything to grow. And so that was the biggest thing was, girls need to be willing that idea of losing. Don't aim for that, but that idea of being okay that if you're going to try something, do it with all your might. And if you lose, you'll grow. You'll grow from that. So that would be my biggest thing. Don't be scared of failure. But, failure isn't the goal. It's just don't necessarily be scared of it because what you think is failure isn't at all. Not if you take it the right way. And that's something my freshman year of college has also taught me a lot is, I'm suddenly getting told a big one was our conference meet where I managed to get into the finals of our conference meet. And I scored 1 point for my team. We got a triple crown, meaning we won cross country, indoor and outdoor championships. And it was so huge. I was like, I scored 1 point. And I said to the girls, I've never been so happy to get sixth place in my life. I've never been so happy because it was like I had made so many mistakes, but I managed to pull out one thing. I put my everything into one thing, and that's what pulled through. And a whole year of work went into that one throw, and I got sixth place, and it was the most glorious thing of my life. So, yeah,
Very
there's
good.
so many lessons there.
That is great lessons. I am going to go into let's get to know Jana just a little bit better. See, look how much I've grown in just a short amount of time. I didn't go back and say it the wrong way.
All right.
Um, so let's start with food because food's always big in the wrestling world. Um, Post weigh-in, what did you have? And you can even now days of throwing. What's some good things that we're having?
I mean, it stays consistent because, nerves get some upset stomachs, but my go-to, I wanted a cheese stick always. Honestly, multiple cheese sticks and fruit snacks. And then if I had it with me, go-go squeeze apple pouches, applesauce pouches. Those were my three. Never upset my stomach. It's so good. But I had those every year. My mom never stocked them up except for if it was wrestling season. If it was wrestling season, I was like, please. And she's like, they're already in the pantry.
Do you still have a little bit of that now?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I get the big jumbo packs of cheese sticks from Costco and they just stay in my fridge and um I had to revert to applesauce jars. So now you just
Oh,
get a
yes.
you just, swig it down. But
Very
I
nice.
think they're the best little snacks.
So you're in a whole new area, a lot of new foods. Is there
Yeah.
something that you've tried that you're like, oh wow, I never thought I'd try that, but I absolutely love this now?
Okay, so it's not that I never had it. I used to always like not do well with seafood. I used to not do well with seafood at all. And just being in the area, there's more opportunities for good seafood. So
Yeah.
I've started to really like sushi. I still stay away from the really like raw fish sushi. Like I love my California rolls, and stuff like that and shrimp. The big one was salmon. I now love salmon and matcha lattes. I I thought matcha tasted like grass. I didn't like it. And now that's like my go-to coffee order is matchas and salmon we have in our cafeteria sometimes. And I refused it for the first like semester and a half. And somebody made me eat it. And now I love salmon.
Pretty solid food in the cafeteria.
Pretty solid food. It is pretty good. We
Yeah.
have like three or four dining halls, so you get
Nice.
options.
I'm going to go back to a couple wrestling questions. Actually, let's move on. Obviously, I'll move and I'll come back to wrestling. I'll put them all together. Um, Traveling and such. You've probably got to travel quite a bit with track.
Yeah.
Is there a place that was really cool that you've got to travel with athletics?
Mm, yeah. I'm trying to think. I think the furthest distance that I went was Virginia. That was a long distance. There are other ones. Usually we go to Florida for a track meet, which I think I would have loved that, Miami. That didn't happen this year because they're under construction. So we actually had more closer meets than we usually would have. I think one of the cool moments was in New York. There's a track called the Armory, which is known like they've done world events, like top runners and throwers of the nation, and sometimes world have been there. Um, and it was so funny because I had coaches being like, "You've never been to the Armory?" And I went, "I'm from Iowa." And they're like, "Oh, I forgot about that." I think that was the coolest one because while it was only New York and I've been to New York a lot of times, that was so unique for this thing that was so big in track and field that I had never been to. And it was everyone's like, "This is so big," and I was just like, didn't know
Did you
that, but
ever
cool.
did you ever say to them, well, have you been to the blue track at all? See?
I did. I was like, Ryan Krauser throws at Drake, and they're like, "We've heard of the Drake relays." I'm like, "Yeah, I throw there. That was my home track." So
There
they're
you
like,
go.
"Really?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I have some bragging rights.
Now overall, is there a place that you really would like to travel to? Not necessarily just for track. I'm talking vacation, go and
Yeah.
enjoy yourself.
Mm. I have a couple ideas. I've said I've always wanted to go to like Scotland or Ireland. Because I'm wearing some green on me.
Yeah.
Um, because of family ancestry on that one. Although I do have a Scottish teammate who says absolutely not, don't do it. It rains all the time. It's not worth it. Um, those have always been a big one. I'm hoping in future opportunities with like internships abroad that Princeton offers that I can end up somewhere in like Australia, maybe Spain. Maybe I don't know, like Netherlands would be fun. If you couldn't tell, I'm pretty Dutch.
Yeah.
I'd love to
Yep.
visit my homeland.
You're kind of in that Dutch area of Iowa.
I am. I am, yeah.
let's see. Do you have, I know you're super busy. Do you have any time to watch movies or binge TV shows?
I do, and I do, yeah.
What are we binging?
I'm a little ashamed to say Love Island was one that I binged.
I
And you
tried, man. I've tried. I just can't. I
it
can't, man.
And you know what? This season was ridiculous, and some people are going to hear this and they're either going to fully agree with me or they're going to fully disagree with me. I had watched last season, and this was all because of friends, peer pressure. Peer pressure
Yes.
got me to do it. And my workplace was full of conversation about the show. And so I was like, I can't miss out on this conversation. So I had to watch. But I'm actually binging books right now. So I've been reading the Court of Thorns and Roses series. And so I went from binging Love Island straight into the next thing.
Probably a little better for your brain. I'm
I
gonna tell you,
hope.
I did watch some Love Island UK one like over
Oh,
COVID. It
oh,
was
okay.
COVID time, and I will tell you, I enjoyed the UK version way better than the American version.
Everyone says that, and now I feel like maybe I need to give it a chance so I can have a full picture and perspective in these
Yeah.
conversations.
I think mostly UK stuff tends to be a little bit better than the American stuff. Even, I mean,
Really?
they started The Office started in the UK, and we
This
took
is
it.
true. That's a
What
favorite show of
was
mine. Yeah.
Shameless? I don't know if you've ever seen Shameless
Oh, all
was
of
a
it.
British show. So yeah, so
Oh, you
maybe
make
they
a good
have
point.
maybe they're just better. I don't know.
You know what they're doing.
So if we could, normally I would ask this question if we would make a wrestling movie about you, what would we call the movie? But this could be just an athletic movie about you. What are we going to call this?
Oh, I don't know. I don't want to steal from other people. I would think I would do something of like lost in the chaos type of thing. And like kind of what it's like because I've always loved being chaotic. I love doing everything under the sun, trying to be successful in all the things. And so I think that rap encaptures like being lost in a good way, but also kind of how you get lost in it and
Yeah,
bad slash all the way. So probably like lost in the chaos type of
I
thing.
like that. I like that.
Yeah.
I jump into a lot of stuff myself, and
Right? Right?
I'm like, well, we'll try podcasting this week, and then let's do all these different, all
We'll
kinds
figure
of
it
crazy.
out.
Yeah, so I get it. So who would play you? Who's the actress?
I Honestly, I don't know who could be the actress because I don't know if you see so many actresses with this upper build. And I gotta say, having the body shape that I did was a very big part of my career and the strength. But if I could pull anybody, I would pull Alona Mar, the rugby player.
Oh,
Maybe that's because I like to think that she and I look like each other, and she's been on Dancing with the Stars and all the things, so I think she'd be willing to add acting to her resume. So
well,
if
why
she wants
not?
to play me, I'd be honored.
That would be great. Um, we talked about the cow pants and stuff, and I've always been a little out there too with my shoe selection and always having some fun. What's your favorite wrestling shoe? What did you wear?
Oh, I wore my first pair was an Adidas actually, and then Asics. Asics were good. Um, I then went to Rudis. I do like Rudis. I loved the look of my senior ones because they were the cereal bowl one. I love that.
Oh, yep.
But when you get to some of those older Asics and they kind of knew what they were doing with those, I really like some of those older Asics and how they feel on the feet. But I think Rudis might take the cake for their designs.
I wear a little Rudis myself, so yeah. Outside of wrestling shoe, what's your go-to everyday kicks?
Everyday kicks. I have this during the summer, it's, like a off-brand Birkenstock, of course. But I had this pair of Nike Air Forces with little silver Nike signs all around it. It's some really special
Oh,
edition. I thrifted them. They are falling apart. They are begging to be retired. They're ripping at the seams, and I refuse to retire them. And so they're my everyday shoe. They wish they weren't, but they are.
very nice. Music. Did you listen to a lot of music before you wrestled?
Yeah. always.
Do you listen to music before you throw?
Yeah, mostly.
What's the playlist look like?
Everything. Not to be that person. I will, whatever I'm feeling, I'll go from AC/DC, Motley Crue to Sophia the First from Disney Channel. Because sometimes you just got to get some crazy stuff to get your mind off of it.
Yeah.
But I would say when I'm trying to, there's mellow out or there's hype it up. And usually if I'm hyping it up, it's rock and roll and it's Motley Crue. It's the good stuff. It's the good
Very
stuff.
good. I like
Guns N'
that.
Roses, yeah.
I believe that's the new term is grandpa rock.
Grandpa Rock, really?
Yeah. Yeah, I heard that. I heard that
Oh,
somewhere.
I'm gonna have to use that. But like honestly, I think it's just the golden ages of rock, really. Like
It's
they're just trying to say it's
I
yeah,
I'm not
interesting.
gonna lie. I listen to a lot of stuff right now that's coming out. A lot of singer-songwriter stuff. There's some really good music out right now. There just
There
is.
is. There is. I think one of them I've started to like is Youngblood, who's kind of
Oh,
like the modern version of Ozzy Osbourne.
yeah.
And that was a big thing when he passed, and he's kind of taking the step up, and I'm here for it.
I actually downloaded a Youngblood playlist because I watched
Really?
some stuff with Ozzy. You know, that was a tough time for us for us Gen
I
Xers, you
still
know.
felt the pain too. I still felt it. I no.
One thing, being an athlete, our coaches make a big impact on our lives, and this doesn't necessarily have to be your wrestling coach because you've excelled at throwing, you've excelled at throwing crap around. So, um, is there a phrase that you hear in the back of your head every once in a while? You know, just I hear all the time, wrestle as hard as you can for as long as you can. Or my head coach
Yeah.
said that every day in practice, every day, every meet. Is there something
Yeah.
that,
Yeah, there's one. It's always stuck with me. And it was from my coach who I had from when I started until I think my junior year, went through my junior year. And I think it was either my sophomore or junior year. His phrase was, "It all comes to an end." And it wasn't meant to be like really
yep,
sad or anything. He was trying to say, like, during conditioning, like, it's gonna end. It's gonna come to an end. Like, if you, it's that, like, wrestle as hard as you can for as long as you're in, like, it's gonna
yep,
come to an end and it's gonna stop. And at the end of it, are you gonna be proud of what you did and all that? And it's saying, like, this isn't gonna go on forever. Don't torture yourself being like, I don't know how much longer I can make. Like, you only got 20 more seconds. It's gonna come to an end. And over the years, that morphs. Every time I think of that phrase, it means something different. As I got to my senior year, it was like, my wrestling career's ending in a way and not in like a, type of thing, but it was like, I need to enjoy this and I need
yep.
to push this as hard as I can because it's going to come to an end. And I think as I grow older and I'm taking different steps through life, that's another one is it all comes into an end. So it's like, what can I do now to enjoy it, to make it the best it can be, and to push myself. And that was my big thing for wrestling too. Running in the hallways at 5:30 in the morning. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm like, well, in 20 minutes, it's going to come to an end,
Yep.
which in the end, it's not actually that much time. So it all comes to an end,
It's just a little blip.
right?
Oh man, you said something there, and I was gonna throw something out, but I've again, I'm getting old. And I'm losing this stuff, man.
I
That's
talk a
all right.
lot, so it's my own fault.
That is okay. Um, what choice? Coin flips. It's your choice. What are we making?
This is difficult. I think I did well on top. I think that might have been my most solid spot, but I weirdly started getting a love for being on bottom, even though that's how I lost some matches, was not being as good on bottom as I needed to be. I think the instinct in wrestling is take bottom most of the
Hmm.
time, unless the circumstance. So
Yeah.
I kind of started to develop a love for bottom.
So how are you getting away? What was the move?
Um, It wasn't a tripod. It wasn't a tripod slide. I started to use that a little bit more my senior year. It was like I don't even know if we had a name for it. But what happens is you're kind of in the position and you slide your knee out and you're sitting on your leg and then you peel the hands off. And so the biggest thing was for me was sliding under myself, kind of getting on my knees in a way, but not to the point that they could pull you back. And I peeled the
Uh-huh.
hands away, so I had hand control, and I'd flip out and I'd immediately have um, We call it like the bat, or so you could
Yeah,
use that. But that
it's all
that's the
right.
one I always pulled out.
Okay. How are we pinning people?
I like to say I was more extravagant than I was. Half Nelson always did what I needed it to do.
There you go.
I got docked a couple times on some full Nelsons in the beginning. I had to
Hmm.
learn that the hard way. But a half Nelson will do. But specifically, it's I use that arm that I took control of, and you cross them across the stomach. You pull it across the stomach, and they're already almost turning for you. So then a half Nelson with that combo was lethal for me,
So kind of chaining that together. You're getting out from bottom and then already going into your pin.
pretty much.
On our feet, how are we taking people down?
Think you know this one. I would have loved to say it was my sweep single because I had a good sweep single when I used it, but snapping every time and they almost had to ban me from it. They almost had to tell me I was not allowed to do it just so I'd do something else. But I one of my biggest assets was being really upper body strong. So I really liked snapping and dragging.
If you could have one superpower, what would that superpower be?
I would be the Flash, but the only way people can understand to what extent I want the Flash's powers, they would have had to watch the show The Flash because he can like surge through walls and he can go back in time if he runs fast enough. Like he can almost do all of it just because he's the Flash. So to anybody who's watched the whole Flash series, they know exactly what I'm talking about.
I have not watched the series. I will have
Yeah,
to, maybe I'll
you have to
get,
watch it.
maybe I'll look into that. Um, Wrestling, we're going to stick with the wrestling side of this. Is there someone you looked up to and inspired to be?
Mm. I mean, my brothers were always a big role, obviously. Like that was my base, was I was always with my oldest brother being 14 years older than me. I was at wrestling meets since I was little. I thought I was going to be a wrestling cheerleader, actually. I never thought about wrestling. I was going to be a wrestling cheerleader. How the tables turn, office
Yes.
quote. Um, they were always a big role model, but on the female side of things, my other brother Gabe introduced me to Helen Morales when I was
Yeah.
younger, right as I was starting. So she started it, but of course now like a meet Allure. I mean, I think you talked about this in some other podcast. She's so down to earth.
Yep.
She's not just a wrestling role model. She's an athlete model. And that's like Alona Mar for me as well, how they handle being athletes as well as just being people. But otherwise, this is my big shout out would be Naomi Simon. She's
Yeah.
been she's been a huge one. I really looked up to her after our sophomore year. And honestly, the girls who were in my class of wrestling, like freshmen, sophomores in the same grade of me, I think that whole class was kind of an inspiration for me. You know, Tatum, Isabel, Olivia, Naomi, Kiara, Hannah, Rogers, like
Yeah.
in my mind, and I like to say we were like one of the best classes of wrestling because of how we watched wrestling change
It was a
and
good
what we did
class.
about that.
Yeah,
Oh,
because it was just a fantastic class. Just
yeah.
great. Well, like we talk about a lot on here is, not just good athletes, but good people.
Yeah, exactly. And we watch the change in wrestling's always an amazing community. We're such a community, but those girls, I remember we'd see each other at meets and it's like, it was, hey, it's your friends, but the conversations we had about how wrestling was going at our schools and how we could grow it and how it could get better, the advocacy work that I saw so many of them do and stuff, like I've never felt so connected to a community because, we were in it. We were living through the change. And so they, I just, all those girls, it wasn't even about success. It wasn't about the success each of us had. It was like how we tried to make change. I think that was amazing to see in my class. So they will always be a big inspiration for me.
Very good. Um, two small things left. Finish this sentence. You're back in school. It's very important. This is a fill in the blank. Wrestling taught me to.
I know it should be a quick reply. Wrestling taught me to advocate for myself. That's the biggest one. Wrestling taught me to advocate for myself.
Very good. Final thoughts.
Final thoughts.
Very profound ones because you're a Princeton student.
True.
These are Ivy League
They're
level
Ivy
thoughts.
Leagues. I'm a scholar. I mean, I think I've talked a lot and yapped a lot, but I think the biggest thing would be remember why you're there and why you're doing it. Because, everyone says try something new, and generic stuff, try something new, but remember why you're there. Because if you don't, when you start, you have to learn a passion and learn why you're there. But when you're getting into those later years, you need to remember why you're there. Are you there because you feel like other people have expectations for you? No, that's not why you should be there. You should have a sort of passion and you should want to do it. And you need to love the sport you're doing, whether that means you need to fall in love with it again, whether you need to take a step back and fall in love with it again, whether you need to take a step back from the sport, but remember why you're there and if you know that, that's something you can always grab onto, and that'll get you through wrestling, that'll get you through life, that will get you through everything. But otherwise, I don't know how you're so supposed to succeed if you don't have something driving you.
Very good. Very good to see you again.
It was
It
great.
was
Thank
always
you.
fun. You're a long ways away, so I don't get to run and watch your track meets or anything like that. But
No.
hopefully we will run into each other one of these days again.
I'll find you during winter break, I'm sure. I'll
That
find
sounds
a
like
wrestling meet to show up to.
that sounds like a winner. That's right. Well, I'm gonna hit the stop button
Awesome.
if I can find my cursor because two computers old guy. So
You gotta shake it.
yeah.